Pridewind just released a tier list for Wuthering Waves, and it's honestly similar to the one that I did several days ago with a few minor differences, which is good. That means I did something right. As we approach release, more and more players are looking for guides on the ideal team composition. What team would work best for open world content or competitive content in the form of the Tower of Adversity, which is where I come in today to help alleviate a little bit of that stress. Today, I'll discuss the best team for both types of content. I have a beginner's guide if you're interested in learning everything about the game. I have a tier list if you're wondering which 4 or 5-star resonators you should be saving up for. I have a list of common mistakes that you're likely to make and the best way to acquire free gacha pulls. Links to all of those videos are in the description, the pinned comment, and the end screen at the end of this video. Before jumping in though, I'd like to thank my incredible patrons over on Patreon and my YouTube channel members who allow for me to continue to do dedicated videos like this every single day. You guys are all the best and I cannot thank you all enough for the support. Also, quick shout out to Pridewind. They have some incredible guides over there for dozens of games, including Wuthering Waves, that'll no doubt be of significant benefit to players. I'll even be using part of their character info in the guides that I'm making in an effort to bring you the most secure, concrete, accurate information possible. Now let's not waste any time. Allow for me to do a quick TLDR for each character, beginning with main DPS Resonators. This consists of Jian, Kalkaro, Encore, Danjin, Chisha, and Lingyang. Jian is one of the best DPS in the game right now. His maximum damage potential is achieved during his ultimate window, with his damage outside of that not being nearly as impressive. He has incredible single target and AoE potential, an AoE grip with a focus on both arrow and heavy damage. Kalkaro, coincidentally, also happens to be one of the best DPS in the game right now, but unlike Jian, has a much higher skill ceiling. This guy is pure raw damage that is achieved through a sequence of combos, leaving very little room for error. He has an electro affinity. Encore is the first ranged DPS that has a complete transition to a close ranged melee fighter during her ultimate. She doesn't possess the AoE potential of Jian, but has some of the highest single target burst damage of any character. She also has great energy maintenance. Encore has a fusion affinity. Danjin is a berserker. What this means is that she consumes her own HP to deal maximum damage to enemies, which often leaves her susceptible to critical situations. She has a phenomenal dodge counter, has a focus on parrying, a lot of damage potential, and is competent outside of her ultimate windows. Danjin has a havoc affinity. Chisha is another ranged character that lacks the ability to parry, is predominantly single target focus, requires a lot of field time to fully make use of her kit, and doesn't have a damage output that can compete with any other DPS listed thus far that would warrant keeping her on the field. Chisha has a fusion affinity. Lingyang is an ultimate focus character that gains power and utility during his ultimate phase. However, even during his ultimate, he has less damage than most of his other counterparts. He has a simple playstyle and is incredibly beginner friendly though. Lingyang has a Glacial affinity. Next, we'll cover the hybrid resonators. This consists of Yinlin, Mortify, the Rover, Sanhua, Jianqin, Yuanwu, and Alto. Yinlin deals enough damage to fall under the main DPS category, essentially rivaling the top DPS in the game. She also provides some incredible buffs during her outro skill that severely boosts Electro and Resonance Liberation damage by 20 and 25% respectively. She's one of the few characters to possess a coordinated attack that allows her to deal damage while not the controlled character. Yinlin has an Electro affinity. Mortify is essentially a piece of gear for Jian, as bad as that sounds, in so that his outro skill boosts heavy damage by 38%, which benefits Jian significantly. Mortify also possesses a coordinated attack, increasing his damage potential exponentially. After hitting sequence 6, he also gains a 20% attack buff to the entire team, which makes him necessary for any high damage team. Mortify has a fusion affinity. The Rover is a surprisingly effective DPS. They deal good damage. You can upgrade their sequences for free, boosting their damage further with each increase. Unfortunately, they do not provide a whole lot in terms of utility. The Rover has a Spectro affinity. Sanhua is essentially a ninja. She has low cost abilities that deal great damage, while also possessing an outro skill that boosts glacial damage by 30%. At sequence 6, she also gains an attack boost buff. She's honestly a fast, painless character to use and has a glacial affinity. I've talked about Jianqin being an integral part of my team during the beta numerous times, the reason being her extensive selection of buffs. She can shield your team, she has AoE damage and an AoE grip like Jian, a 38% increase in Resonance Liberation damage during her outro skill and self-heals, She's the king of the overworld, but fails to find her place during the Tower of Adversity due to how long she needs to be on the field for. Jianqin has an arrow affinity. Yuanwu is essentially an inferior Yinlin. He functions similarly to Mortify and has the ability to deal damage while not deployed on the field. He allows for coordinated attacks and has a focus on defense scaling, making him less ideal for people that want to maximize damage output, or want resonators that are going to provide beneficial boosts to their team. Yuanwu has an electro affinity. Alto, much like Mortify, is a great base boost to Jian due to his outro skill boosting arrow damage by 30%, but is severely limited by his low damage output, lack of utility outside of that Jian boost, until more arrow resonators are released anyway, and on-field requirement time. Alto has an arrow affinity. And finally, the supports. This consists of Verina, Baizha, Yang Yang, and Tao Qi. If you're looking for a support, then look no further than Verina. She is the resonator I recommend choosing with your guaranteed 5-star selector because of her raw utility in literally every aspect. Verina provides 2 separate attack buffs. She has a lot of healing utility. She allows the use of coordinated attacks with other resonators, which means not only does she heal, not only does she boost the raw damage output of all your party members, but she also aids in damage even when not directly controlled. Only did I mention her passive can nullify fatal damage every 10 minutes. Verina is an incredibly versatile, flexible character that should not be overlooked. Verina has a Spectro affinity. Baizha is the free-to-play version of Verina. She has a great outro skill that initiates a heal and then boosts resonator damage by 15%. While she has 2 great additions to any party, they're also much weaker than Verina's, meaning Baizha should only be used if you cannot get Verina. Baizha has a Glacial affinity. Yang Yang is great for teams that need more in terms of energy management, as her outro skill recovers 4 energy per second, lasting 5 seconds, totaling 20 energy recovered. She has the ability to heal, although in a much more limited capacity, and also possesses an AoE grip, making her a great choice for AoE cleave teams. Yang Yang also has an arrow affinity. Tao Qi has the unusual ability to function as a semi-tank. She generates shields, performs parries with ease, can tank powerful hits from bosses if you spec into defensive stats. Unfortunately, due to her lacking DPS with bosses 1 or 2 tapping you, it doesn't really matter how much damage you can absorb when you underperform compared to other supports or DPS. She does boost resonant skill damage by 38% during her outro, however, but that doesn't really make up for everything else that she lacks. With this in mind, there are 2 team compositions that could work incredibly well for overworld content and the more competitive side of the game, the Tower of Adversity. On the one hand, you're going to want a main DPS. So for Team 1, we'll use Jian. For Team 2, we'll use Kalkaro. Why? They're the 2 highest DPS 5-star resonators. Next, we require a secondary DPS or a hybrid DPS that is of benefit to our main DPS. For Team 1, we'll use Mortify. As noted earlier, he's a perfect pick for any Jian-centric team due to his Concerto skill providing a 38% boost to heavy attack damage. This is Jian's primary form of damage. He also allows for coordinated attacks, dealing damage while not on the field, and at sequence 6 provides a 20% attack buff to the entire team. For Team 2, we'll use Yinlin. The reason being, not only is her damage absolutely ridiculous, her outro skill boosts both electro damage and resonance liberation damage by 20 and 25% respectively. She also has coordinated attacks, allowing her to deal damage while not out on the field. This significantly boosts Kalkaro's output. Finally, we're typically going to need a support resonator. For overworld content, this is to make certain that we're always in tip-top shape. For the Tower of Adversity, it's to make up for mistakes that we might make otherwise. For both teams, there's really only one option, Verina. She just adds too much to every team composition, with powerful heals, shields, attack buffs that benefit Jian, Kalkaro, and Yinlin, the ability for coordinated attacks, but also her ability to negate a death blow when it counts. Maybe Baizha, the dollar store Verina, if you don't have Verina. So Team 1 would consist of Jian, Mortify, and Verina, or Baizha. Team 2 would consist of Kalkaro, Yinlin, and Verina, or Baizha. Anything else is inferior, but at the same time, most content is going to be doable and clearable with any team composition. Again, if you're looking for other guides, click one of the videos on screen right now, or the links in the description of the pinned comment below. But most importantly, have fun in Wuthering Waves.